Alright, welcome in everybody. Today's topic of discussion, we don't have a mental health crisis, we have a human condition crisis. And what do I mean by this? I mean, if you look online or just around, there's all this sentiment about how mental health is just on a decline and everyone's just mentally unwell. There's all these people with depression and anxiety and all these conditions, pick your label. But there's just things wrong with them, and they're just unwell, and they need to be chemically lobotomized. That is the solution. I don't agree with this sentiment at all. Now, before I get deep into the meat and potatoes of this video, I would just like to make it known I'm not saying that mental health conditions don't exist. I understand there's real people with anxiety and depression and schizophrenia, and it affects real people, and it's a real thing. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying it's massively overdiagnosed as like a cop-out so they can feed you a pill instead of, you actually fixing your life. But essentially, my argument in this video is maybe we're not just mentally unwell. Maybe there's not just some magical force that's making us all lunatics for some reason and we need pills to fix us. Okay, maybe it's because we're living in a completely unnatural society on every front and we're being overwhelmed with information, sensory overload. We live in a complete unnatural society. We're supposed to be hunting and fishing and chilling in a cabin. That's supposed to be our lives. And now everyone has 2 jobs endlessly toiling for a mega corporation, which they will still never retire off of or maybe even be able to afford a house. Crap, they might not even be able to afford to have offspring. And I could go on. I mean, you're living in this world with me. You see what I see. Maybe this is the problem. I think human condition is the problem, okay? It's not our problem for not handling it well. That's the same thing as if I beat a dog and then it was skittish and I was like, oh yeah, the dog's just skittish. It's got something wrong with it. Like, no, bro, it's because I fucking hit it. That's why it's having emotional problems. Just like most of us. Maybe we have depression and anxiety because we can try our hardest and our best and still get nowhere in a rigged society by the Epstein class. And I could keep going. You know what my point is here. But yeah, I don't think we're just mentally unwell. I think there's a bigger issue here at play. But going back to my point with the abused dog, okay, the dog's problem is it's being abused and it needs better living conditions. It doesn't need Zoloft and Xanax. It needs treated better. It needs lifestyle changes and improvements, not a pill so it can't chemically make the scared juices in its brain. That is not how you fix that problem. It's putting a band-aid over a bullet wound. Just another good example. If I got shot, yes, I could take a handful of pain pills and then I would feel better because I literally cannot experience pain in my brain chemistry. But guess what, bro? It's just gonna get infected and get worse because now I'm not paying attention to it and nurturing it. I don't even feel it. I'm just walking around, ripping it back open, spraying blood all over the walls or whatever. What you need is the actual solution. You need to get the bullet out of there and stitch up the wound and what have you. Not take pain pills so you don't notice the problem anymore. So yeah, if you have anxiety, what is anxiety? It is being on edge and not feeling safe. So you need an environment and a lifestyle that makes you feel at peace and doesn't give you anxiety. You don't need Xanax, bro. Just like if your life feels meaningless and you're sad, then you need a life with meaning and stuff that makes you happy, not a pill that makes it so you can't feel sad, okay? I don't know why this is such an earth-shattering concept, but actually I do, and that's because you can't sell someone, peace and happiness. You can't sell them, any of these things, but you can sell them a pill, all right? If you just told people, to get better in their life, then you wouldn't be able to sell them these things. Just like a doctor isn't going to tell you to, eat healthy and take good care of yourself, even though that's the most obvious thing for your health, because they can't sell you that. Okay, the doctor doesn't sell broccoli, the doctor sells drugs. So obviously the solution is going to be drugs. It's just like if you ask a used car salesman if you need a new car, he's going to tell you yes, no matter what, because he's a car salesman. The psychiatrist is going to tell you need pills because they're a pill salesman. This is just how capitalism works, bro. Welcome to reality. But yeah, guys, insane discovery. The solution to a miserable life is to stop living a miserable life. It's not to keep going on your miserable path and just take pills so you can't feel misery. Insane revelation, I know. But another point that I wanted to bring up is so they're literally telling you to take drugs for your problems. I don't know if any of you paid attention on like Red Ribbon Week or whatever, but drug addiction has a lot to do with filling the holes in yourself that need filled by actual stuff in life instead of putting substances in you. But when the doctor sells you those substances, it's fine, even though it's like the same thing in a lot of the cases. Alright, Adderall is very similar to street drugs. Alright, Xanax, for example, if you're addicted to Xanax and you're having withdrawals, you can drink a beer for it and it will help. And if you're addicted to alcohol and you're having withdrawals, you can take a Xanax and be fine. Why is that? Because they're eerily similar substances. Now, if you were having anxiety and I told you that what you should do for that is drink a couple beers every day, that would be horrible advice, obviously. Like, what's wrong with you? You're creating addiction? That's terrible. But if the doctor tells you you need Xanax, which you can literally take those drugs interchangeably, it's so similar that it will solve the other drugs' withdrawal symptoms. Like, am I the only one that sees the problem in that? And a whole other point of this is in the medical field, we have a lot of things very figured out and we understand how they work and the mechanics behind it. But one of those things we don't have very much understanding of is your brain, alright? That's still, there's a lot of mysteries in there. And they prescribe people things like SSRIs. And A, the science behind this is still not fully understood, but B, we understand that it affects people completely randomly. It's like pulling the handle on a slot machine. This might make you feel great, it might make you blow your head off and, stab your mother with a fork or whatever. And they're just kind of rolling the dice, which is insane to me on many levels because A, you're going to give a mentally unwell person something that can make them violent and have crazy thoughts. B, SSRIs make you more suggestible. They work in a similar light to psychedelics and make you like super suggestible, and you kind of get in these states of like, oh, reality isn't real, I'm in a GTA server. And that's why a lot of people do crazy things on them. So you take someone that's mentally unwell, you just chemically hit the slot machine of, whatever happens. Like, that's literally how they prescribe this stuff to you, is they just give you one, they see what happens, oh, well, that made you want to kill yourself, oh, well, here's this one, well, okay, well, this, they're literally just guessing. It's the same thing of if I had a bunch of street drugs on my table and I was like, oh, here, smoke this, that doesn't make you feel better, here, snort this, okay, alright, well, I'm gonna shoot this into your neck, tell me if that helps you feel better. Like, I don't actually know, bro. I don't know. I'm just giving you drugs. Because one of these is gonna cover up your symptoms, and then you're gonna start buying it from me every month. All right, we're gonna figure this out the old-fashioned way, which is take this. How do you feel? That's very scientific. That's great. And currently on the internet, there's a giant argument and discourse about whether or not SSRIs are a contributing factor in things like mass shootings. And, you can look at the evidence for yourself. You can decide what you want to think, pick that side of the argument if you will. But I think it just makes sense. All right, you give someone that's already mentally unwell drugs that are basically pulling the slot machine on their brain chemistry with side effects such as aggressive and violent behavior, suicidal, homicidal, tendencies, feeling not real, like depersonalization and derealization stuff. I could go on, but all of this just makes sense. Yeah, if you're already unwell and suffering, and then you give someone a pill that might give them violent and suicidal outbursts, you know, just do that math for a second. It makes sense, and depending on the math you look at, it's like 25 to like 35% of the mass shooters were taking SSRIs. So not telling you what to think. Like I said, do your own research, but it just makes sense the more you think about it, if you ask me. But yeah, to summarize my point here, I think most people with mental health issues, if you will, they actually have a lifestyle issue, and the problem is that they're a square block trying to fit into the circle hole or what have you. The problem is they're in the wrong place, living the wrong way, or whatever. The problem is internal or external in some form. It is not a lack of medication, and it's not just something inherently wrong with people. Alright? There's not anything wrong with you for feeling anxious and depressed in a complete unnatural reality on every front. That is just symptoms of the current times. Alright, and I think that the actual solution is internal and external work, whether that's from within yourself, or outside in just the way you live your daily life, and the things you're working towards, or what have you. And even if you do have, unless you're like, crazy levels of schizophrenic or something where it's dangerous, even if you do have legitimate mental health issues, I believe you will benefit immensely from not taking those drugs, so you can actually learn how to handle yourself and your emotions and your symptoms. All right, it's like training wheels on a bike. All right, if you want to learn to ride without training wheels, you have to take the training wheels off and go skin your knees a couple times. If you just keep the training wheels on there, you're not gonna learn, bro. You're not, okay? Like, when I was a little kid, it took me forever to learn to ride a bike without training wheels. Why? Because my parents didn't take them off and make me figure it out, okay? You have to eventually figure out how to handle yourself. If you just keep, taking pain pills for your broken leg or whatever and walking on it, it's only gonna get worse. You need to figure out what actually needs done, and you need to work on that. But going back to my analogy with fitting the square piece in the circle hole on the little children's, shape toy thing, that's kind of what's happened in modern society, and why I feel a lot of people are having these problems as well, is because everything's been carved out to where the only types of people that are needed in society are, let's say, circles and triangles and rectangles, alright? And there's still all these rhombuses and octagons and squares, walking around, and they're lost, or they're just trying to shove themselves into the wrong hole and wondering why it's miserable, okay? Like, as a square, you don't sit there and just try to force yourself into the circle hole, and you don't pull out a knife and cut off your edges so you can be a circle and fit in the circle hole. That's not good, bro. That's terrible. You need to go and you need to dig for the square hole. The square hole might be hard to find. It might not have as clear of a path. Society and your parents aren't telling you to be a square. Matter of fact, they might, tell you that that's irresponsible or whatever. But it doesn't matter. You have to figure out what you are. If you're a square, don't try to shove yourself in the circle hole. Don't try to change yourself. Be a square. Eventually, you'll find that square slot, man. I promise. I believe in you. But anyways, thank you for attending my little ramble and checking out the channel. If you want to support me, there's all those stupid buttons that everyone tells you to press. That would be much appreciated. More content on the way. Eat ass, skate fast, stay safe. Peace.